Hey, Run Try Bike community. Welcome to our 141st episode of the Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, brought to you by Run Try Bike. Today, we're going to be joined by CC Tellez, who is the founder of the Lez Run Running Club out of Philadelphia, which celebrated their 10-year anniversary in 2024. They also have chapters in New York and Portland. CC is also a certified coach with RRCA, as well as being an athlete ally ambassador. Before we bring CC on, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network where you get your podcasts. We have 8 shows, which means there's something for everyone. From shows like this one with Q&A conversations to laughter on our Fiery Embers and Food Fight Friday at the aid station to music in our What's in Your Earbuds show, you'll find something you will enjoy without a doubt. So without any more hesitation, let's bring CC on to the show and talk to her about her journey in running, being an athlete ally ambassador, as well as a running coach. Hey, CC, how are you?
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. We are so excited to have you on. I know Ohm did a great job with his interview of you for our digital magazine, and we're super excited to expand on that today with this conversation. But before we get started, we have one question for you, and this will determine who goes first in asking you the questions in our fireside chat. Oh, she's rubbing her hands, folks. She's
Sounds
ready.
interesting. I love a mystery. Let's
Given
go.
her location, I'm a little worried.
You should be. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
No, no.
Yes!
Oh,
A hard no. No.
Yes, even
I
better, a
won't judge
hard
you
no.
if you do that to your pizza.
Right? Like,
man.
why? People, why?
I don't know. That's savory and sweet, sometimes, but definitely not in this one. So,
So here's a twist on it. A few months ago, we had Stevie Lynn Smith on, who is an RD, and I asked her that question, and she did mention this as a twist to it: pickles on white pizza. Is that something you would? The faces.
no, no. I've never even heard of that. And I'm kind of mad that I heard it.
Sorry, folks, for joining us. The show is now over. Cece's angry at us and is closing us out.
We need to
I don't want
send
to
this
yuck anybody's yum, but these are certainly things that I would not be serving you if you come to visit me, and I would not be splitting or going halvesies with it anytime we go out and you order it.
Oh man. Well, that's gonna have to be sent to Stevie at some point. Uh, but despite the fact that you are not a pineapple on pizza person, I will still ask the first question because of our interactions. For those of you who don't know, I got the chance to interview CC on our last digital magazine for a great story about Lez Run. We're going to dive into that in the show. I would encourage everybody to go check it out. But we're here to talk about your story as well. So I want to ask you, how did you find your way to running in endurance sports?
Wow, it's a long story. I'll try to condense it in the time that we have. But I was always an athlete. I grew up as in playing different sports in middle school, high school, and then into college. But it was the after college life that really had me questioning what can I do to continue on with my athleticism and just the community that I had built, being a team member, and I struggled to finding something that was a good fit. But I knew that I wanted to keep active. I always tried to keep a healthy lifestyle, and I knew that I wanted to engage with something. But I had always been into team sports, whether it was softball, field hockey, soccer, rugby, especially rugby my last couple of years in college. Very team oriented. You were always with someone playing the game, you weren't by yourself. So that was my struggle. After I left, I wasn't finding teams that I could be a part of. I knew that my body could no longer take playing rugby. So I needed to find something else. And running had always been a constant. It was always my warm up for any type of activity that I was doing, whether it was, again, rugby or any other sport, or even just going to the gym before I went to lift. So running was always there, kind of in the back. It came to be later that I would be more involved with it. But yeah, I enjoy the sport. I would say that what the turning point for me was, I was going through some personal growth and change. I'd just gone through a divorce, and I was looking to engage with myself in a different way. And I found running through a friend. My cousin had a friend that was very active, so it was a mutual friend, and she asked me to go for runs, just as a healing process, kind of talk things out about my divorce and things that were going on with my life. And I really connected with her, and also with the sport. And she was just so focused and encouraging. And she would always ask me, "What's next?" Every time we did a race or a run, she'd ask me, "Where are we going with this? Are you planning on doing something more with it?" And slowly but surely, I started to really think about that. And I thought, maybe this is not a solitary sport as I thought it was. Here I am running with her, and maybe I could find others to run with and see what this world of running is about. And it really started from there.
You bring up a point that I was going to ask you about, which is participating in team sports has community, and running primarily as a solo sport. Do you think you would have picked up the sport of running on its own had your friend not invited you to go for that first run?
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. Not in the mind frame that I was in at the time. And just reverting back to what does sport and activity mean to me, it meant that there was a bunch of people that I was doing it with. And I did not see running as that, until that moment where I saw, wow, we can spend so much time together talking and being healthy together, that now that I see that others do it and they do 5Ks or do group runs, and I was like, what is that world about? How does it all work? Do they always run together? Are they always chatting it up? Or when does it shift? So that's where I was really curious. I was like, I gotta find out more and see, if this is a fit for me.
Before I turn this over to Om, I do have one follow up question about that. So I played team sports growing up, high school, and I would always look at the kids on the track and think to myself, why are you voluntarily running? Like, you know, if we did something wrong, made a bad play, running was our punishment, right? And so when you first got into running, did you take to it, rather easily, or was it a struggle to get through the idea that running, may have been a punishment for, not performing well on the ball field and in the other sports?
Interestingly enough, it was an easy transition for me, because I was very goal oriented. So I knew if I was, saying playing softball or playing soccer, I knew that there was a goal in mind, that there was steps you need to take in order to want to win. So switching over to running, it was kind of the same. You have to pace yourself in order to gain the goal that you want, whether that's a time goal or whether you want to race to win. So I was able to shift that rather quickly and put myself in that uncomfortable space where I knew that I wasn't punishing myself, but I was working hard towards something. So that, kind of reflected back of like the practices that I would have with softball, with field hockey, or with any sport that I played, where I knew that there was pain involved for that growth to happen, that discomfort that you had to go through, to get something out of it. So that transition was a little bit easy for me. I don't think that I ever saw it as a punishment, though I will say that I was never a fan of warming up. And that's changed. But if I was going to run and I knew I had to run like 3 miles, like for a 5K or a 10K, I was like, I'm not tiring myself out. I'm not warming up. There's no point in that. And I would see others do that. And I'm like, you're doing all wrong. You're going to tire yourself out. But then I obviously understood what warming up does to your body and how it gives you a better chance to do better in the race. But that was the only part that I saw. I got to go through this torture first, and then I can have my fun and do the activity that I enjoy. But yeah.
Oh, oh, I love that. Oh,
Mhm.
well, I'll let you go ahead with whatever you're going to say, Jason.
I was going to ask, so how does the conversation with your athletes as a coach go over when it comes to warm ups and then skipping it?
I know. Yeah, I mean, they probably never heard me say this, that I didn't to do my warm ups, but I definitely, make sure that their bodies are warmed up, ready to go, loose, because I know injury, and that's the one thing they hear me talk about a lot. And I don't want them to get injured, and this is the reason why. So I need to make sure that their muscles are nice and loose, they're ready to go, and they're not going to be pulling anything, and they can get their heart rate going the way that it should be going into a training run.
Absolutely. I can't say that I'm big fan of warming up myself. It's something that I've really grown into and really started to enjoy the process of doing a minimum amount of mobility every single day, and realized how important that is to stay injury free. So um, it's always refreshing to hear somebody like say like, man, I didn't like warm ups, or I didn't like this, because it feels like everyone's doing it when in fact like it's not going to be perfect every single day. So so now that we've talked a bit about your running journey, you kind of segue into community, and you talked a lot about team and community and camaraderie, and how running is not a solitary sport. So how did these concepts eventually lead to you creating Lez Run?
Yeah, I mean, once I started getting into running and that question was starting to be answered of what's next, I did join a running group. And that was through City Sports that was in Philadelphia. They've since closed shop, but that was my first experience with the running group. And as lovely and great as they were, um, and the people in there, I still connect with some folks that used to go to that run group as well. There was always something that was missing, and it wasn't, that they weren't bringing something into my world that wasn't worth it. I think it was that I wanted to expand my world as an LGBTQ person, and I wanted to connect with other LGBTQ athletes, because growing up, I didn't know any LGBTQ athletes. Even as an adult, I didn't know any LGBTQ athletes that I could interact with and talk about what their goals are, their aspirations. Could they become pros? What did that look like? I knew I wanted to go far with my running efforts, and I always was curious of what that could look like being LGBTQ. So, you know, as I was going through this running group, I knew that I needed something extra that unfortunately this group was not going to be able to provide for me. And I started to look into groups that potentially were focused on LGBTQ athletes that were specifically for running. And quite honestly, I couldn't find one. And then after some more research, I did find Front Runners. And Front Runners is the largest LGBTQ running group in the world. And lo and behold, they had a chapter in Philadelphia. And I was beyond excited to find finally, my people. I was like, here's who I get to run with. But unfortunately, when I did reach out, I didn't hear anything back. And then finally, when I did hear something back, it wasn't positive. So I didn't have a good experience with them. And we've cleared the air since. Lez Run is actually part of International Front Runners now. But the one thing with front runners here in Philadelphia too was that it was very male dominated. And it wasn't a reflection of who I am and who the type of people too that I wanted to interact with. I wanted to be around other women. I wanted to be around lesbians. I wanted to be around, people that understood my day to day, perhaps, or what I was going through as well. So, because of that, I said, if this exists, it means that there must be some type of a demand, and that people, maybe are looking for something else beyond that as well. So I had a friend at City Sports that I talked to this with about this idea. I said, what if we just started our own and created something that was a little bit more centered for females and women? So we discussed it. We said, if the two of us are interested, I'm sure there's others that could potentially join in as well. Let's see how it works, and let's have a go at it. And the idea really started to develop in 2013. And we said, when do we start this? When do we have our first run? And we said 2024, 14 in January. Let's give it a go and see, what happens. And it kind of blossomed from there. We were going to build our own community. We were maybe going to model it after some of the things we have seen maybe with front runners in other states. And we knew that we needed to be visible. We needed to have a catchy name. We knew that we needed to, um, you know, put ourselves out there and do the races, train hard, so that we can teach others and we can engage with others, let them know what races they could go to, depending on what they wanted to do, and that we could go together and represent as a community and support one another in our goals, whether it be that we just wanted to get out there and learn how to run, do 1 mile, or maybe become a pro and have a shot maybe at the Olympics, the gay Olympics. The sky's the limit with how far you wanted to go. So we figured, let's, start this up and make it something.
Before I turn it over to Jason, I just want to quickly say, like, I love the name Lez Run. I love, like, I see the first meaning. I love that I'm kind of slow with like puns on names, even though I love dad jokes. And it took me a while for me to see that it's also saying let's run, but I love it.
Wanted to ask you, you played sports in, field hockey and rugby and softball. Were you a leader on those teams? Because it takes leadership qualities to step away from the rest of the world to say, I'm going to go start this thing because I don't see it out there. And if I want it, there's got to be other people that want it too. Like, that's a real leadership quality. Were you also a leader when you were playing those sports when you were younger, or is that something that developed over time?
I think it definitely developed. I know I was a team captain for my softball team in high school. And I think field hockey, not so much. I was, I think, pretty fast, and I always got through the warm ups rather quickly. And I think some of the other players noticed that, and they, I think, just held me to a higher regard because of it. They knew how fast I could move throughout the field, but I wasn't like the best player or anything like that. But I supported my teams and wanted to make sure that the players, got what they needed, whether it was just mental support or anything else. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't afraid to question, could there be more, should there be more, are we doing enough, should we ask our coaches to give us more, or could I provide with what I have, that extra outreach of saying, hey, that was a tough game today, what happened, how do you feel about it, giving them an opportunity to connect with me on that level, even not being in a role of being the captain or anything like that.
One of the things I want to ask you about is you use the words put myself out there or put ourselves out there to get more people involved in Lez Run and stand out from the crowd. How hard was that to do 10 years ago for yourself? Or was it one of those things where you were like, this is so important to me, I'm going forward with it, and I will take the slings and the arrows and deal with any, what we will call trolls today and any backlash on it? Was it just that important that you put yourself out there, or was it difficult for you to put yourself out there?
I was ready. I was definitely ready for that moment. I think for most of my life, I'd been so closeted, so afraid of what people might think of me, say of me, and how it would react to any confrontation. And as I saw people in the professional field come out, I started to get more emboldened by it. And I said, if they're doing it, they're putting everything on the line, they're getting benched, they're getting canceled essentially, they're getting into retirement early because they can't continue their career because of who they are. I said, if they're that bold to do that, I said, what's holding me back? I said, I know who I am. I love who I am, period. Nobody else has to like it. And I said, I'm ready to say that out loud, and I'm willing to be that face for someone that could, the same way that I saw others be for me, that gave me that hope, and that just I don't know, strength to say, you know what, screw everybody else. I'm here. My life will be, will go on record. I've come through this world, and you will see my name, in the stats, in the data. I was present. I came through here, so I was ready. And yeah, I mean, when you put on a shirt that says "Let's Run," people will normally be curious about it, and they're like, "Is that a thing? Like, what does that say about you?" And I got questions in the beginning. People would come over and whisper, and at first I would whisper back and be like, yeah, it's a lesbian, and and after that I'd be like, yes, it's a lesbian a running group out loud, and like, and we're very proud of it, we represent all over, and we're very proud of who we are, and we want to be amongst the other groups that are just as proud to be out there. So I wanted to empower LGBTQ athletes the way that I hadn't been empowered when I was growing up.
It's incredible what you've, like, just talking to you, I can hear in your voice like what you've overcome and the trials and tribulations you've been through. And obviously I can't even come close to understanding it, but like just hearing how impassioned you are about all this is just incredible, and brings me to wanting to ask you about something that I, noticed as I was doing kind of research for this. You represented Bolivia in the gay games in 2023 in Mexico. Um, what did that mean to you to go out there not only like after having gone through that journey as a female, as a lesbian, as a Bolivian athlete, what did it mean to you to be on that stage in 2023?
I think it was the visibility that I've always wanted for myself. I left Bolivia when I was 3 years old, or in third grade, 9 years old, just about to turn 10. So I was very young. I didn't really have a strong connection to my country, to my culture. And I long to have that connection, and even now I'm 46 and I'm still finding out what does it mean to be Bolivian. Who are my people? What are the traditions, the customs? Do I fit in as an adult Bolivian? How does that interaction work? But I know that I've always existed, and I know that my lesbianism is just as much as my Bolivian part, so I can't have the two be separate. And for a long time, that was because culturally it wasn't something that was maybe talked about or accepted. So it was hard for me being both for a long time, but having the opportunity to, again, come out, be comfortable with who I am, love myself, go through that full process to then have the opportunity to compete and represent my country as a proud open lesbian, and then to win the gold medal of all things. There was so much pride going in me because I thought, this is. I'm not afraid to showcase myself, and I'm not afraid to say I'm Bolivian. I'm not afraid to say that I am a lesbian. And love it or take it or leave it. I exist, and I know there's others like me that exist in the same way. And again, I wanted to have that representation to say it's okay to be you, no matter where you're at, no matter what country you're coming from, because most likely you're not the only one.
And
So,
it's fascinating how those pieces just have come together. Like I believe that when you work hard and you're impassioned about something, the pieces eventually come together. There are a lot of highs and lows that come with it, and you might not have the answers right away, but like seeing that, what happened on that stage and the world stage in 2023, and also recognizing that that's the first gay games hosted in Latin America is pretty incredible. And, like hearing about your journey, I just had to ask about that moment specifically. Like I could just like visualize it in my head. Like, man, it's incredible.
it was. And the one thing too is that in Bolivia, even though you're starting to see it more now, more people living their lives a little bit more openly, and getting some support even from the government to some degree. But there's always this notion that LGBTQ folks are up to no good. They're not contributing anything good to society. And here I am on, in this platform with a gold medal for Bolivia, contributing their first gold medal in running ever, and it's at a gay games of all things, in a Latin American country. So it's setting up this historical moment that shows that we are capable people, we're good people, we're representing for our country, we're bringing in good things to our communities and to a representation for the world to see that we're able people too. So that for me was just like shouting from the mountaintops, I guess, to say, hey, we're here, we're good people, like, not pay attention, but see us, acknowledge us. We are contributing just as much.
Yeah,
So for me, it's important for that.
at Run Try Bike, we see you and we recognize you. It's important for us to let everybody know that they're seen and they're heard on our platform. And as you're describing this, I want to shout it from the mountaintops. One of the questions that popped into my head was, after you get your gold medal and you go home, does it hit you that the impact that you are about to have on other athletes who are also LGBTQ, who haven't had the opportunity to come out and showcase their talents? And what is that like? Like to have that realization, because when you started Lez Run, you said it was because there wasn't the representation out there. And now here you are with, you said, the first gold medal ever for Bolivia. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge responsibility, but it's such a great feeling to to be that person now that others can look and say it is possible. I can maybe strive to go this far or maybe even farther and be myself while doing it. And again, this is something that I've gotten from other athletes, their strength, their passion for a sport, their passion for living and wanting to live that life authentically. I think more important than getting a gold medal is to show up in a space that belongs to you. And it doesn't just belong to some and to a few. That you can be a part of that too, and that's life. That's you going through the things that are available that have been created, again for everybody. That you too should have a space in. So I was, empowered for others, and that's one of the things that I wrote on my Instagram post when I was actually before I ran the race. I said, I know that I'm the only Bolivian this year competing, for the marathon, but I said, I don't feel too alone because I'm with the hope that in the future others will join me. Once you see that it's possible, once you see a face that matches yours, then it becomes a little bit easier for you to get yourself involved and say, you know what, me too. Why can't I if she can do it? If we're from the same country, the same city, and the same cultural background, and all the things that come along with that, that there is a path out, that you too, can do these things and do them proudly.
You,
You-
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, that emboldening statement is exactly why I started this company. When I founded this company 4.5 years ago, going on our 5th year, I'm Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and my family was of this belief that we, in air quotes, don't do those things. And I'm like, what do you mean we don't do those things? I'm doing them. And now I've literally started a company about doing those things. And I want other Puerto Rican kids that are in the Bronx and elsewhere to recognize that you can put on a pair of running shoes and go run a mile or go run 250 miles like I did at Cocodona or cross the finish line of an Ironman one day like I have. Like that is very empowering, and it allows us to stand out in front of the crowd to say, hey, follow my lead. Let's go do this together kind of thing. So thank you for saying what you just did, because I think it's really a part of what our platform is all about.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that too. It's culturally across all different, countries and places. It just there's just is always this barriers that we create for ourselves that says only these people can come into this space. Only we don't do that, because we've never done it. We've never seen anyone from our group do it, so it's not for us. When in reality, it's like no, it can be if you allow it to be, if you want it to be.
Yeah, Khadijah Diggs, who we've interviewed before, she wears a hijab and she races triathlon. And she said to me one day, and she's posted about it too, somebody's got to be the first. And I mean, that's a super powerful statement in a few words. And that's exactly what we're hoping to do, is create more opportunities for somebody to be the first and break through the noise and get over the obstacles to reach their starting line and eventually finish lines.
Absolutely. Creating that path is so important. It'll branch off into many different paths, but it's got to start somewhere.
So I want to ask you, CC. We've talked about visibility a lot in this conversation, and representing and creating a blueprint for people who are like you in the same city with the same ethnicity, the female, lesbian, in the LGBTQ community. What can we do as a media company to support what Lez Run is doing and advocate for the LGBTQ community?
I think in general, I would love the media to give more focus to the success of LGBTQ athletes. That's one of the biggest things that we don't see, is that where's that representation? Um, I think most only get it if you're doing really great things, if you're a professional, athlete and you were breaking world records and things of that nature. But it's here, like in this platform where you're taking the everyday athletes, you're giving them an opportunity to have their voices be heard, to be seen, to have an interaction with other folks that are maybe different states or different countries that can hear this. So you're doing exactly what you should be doing. I think far and beyond for, you know, places like Runner's World magazine, even, is that sometimes they say that they're committed to doing the work of diversity, but then they don't highlight, say, non-binary runners who are really excelling at this new division that has been created. So that's doing them a disservice. There's a lot of great talent out there that doesn't get highlighted because maybe they're fearful of the feedback they're going to get, the comments they're going to get, and it's a shame. It's a shame because it's not putting into perspective, the full process of their existence, and what they're accomplishing and contributing to the sport. So I think for any media channel, it's just making sure that they're highlighting and reporting just as much. And I would say that same thing for reporting on women's sports. We need to be able to see it so that others can see themselves in it, and then start to, really back it up and, make it bigger than what it is today.
Yeah, last night we were watching Queer Eye, and they the guys recognized this one. He's a poker dealer, and it dawned on me that he felt seen, right? Like somebody is recognizing him, and they helped him with his hair and everything else the way they do on the show.
Mhm.
And I looked at my wife and I was like, I'm gonna cry because this man just wanted to be seen in this world. And I think that if we can take a moment to recognize others and see the things that they're doing and recognize the things that they are doing, and sometimes it's a high five, sometimes it's a pat on the back, sometimes it's just a simple head nod, right? Like I see you and I recognize you. We could change the way these sports are perceived. We can change who comes and decides that they want to show up, whether they're in the LGBTQ plus community, whether they're a BIPOC athlete, whether they're physically challenged. Um, I don't understand why we wouldn't invite everybody to the table, and just recognize them and say, hey, you're welcome here. Let's go for a run. Or if you're in triathlon, swim, and cycling. Which leads me to this question. Over the last 10 years that you've had Lez Run going, what have you seen as one of the greatest steps forward in getting and seeing athletes and having athletes be seen and recognizing their accomplishments?
Just within a Let's Run, or like in a broader
Within
sense?
Lez Run specifically, and then more generally speaking, yes.
So wait, say the question again. I want to make sure I get it right.
I want to, like, it's been 10 years. It's a decade that Lez Run has been around. From what you started to where you're at today, what has been the greatest step forward? What has been the greatest accomplishment for Lez Run specifically, and then for recognizing LGBTQ plus athletes in general?
Um, I mean, there's two things that I want to address here. I think for Let's Run, on its own, I mean, we have been able to engage with the community, within Philadelphia, but also outside of it. Um, and this speaks to the chapters that we have that are outside of Pennsylvania. There's the interest there, the connections there, their visibility is there. And it's not just that people are doing races, but they're getting more comfortable in movement. And they're able to, if they don't stick with running, they've gained maybe confidence to take on something else and start other things that they're maybe passionate about, whether it be pickleball, basketball, what have you. So movement and getting to know their bodies, in a way that maybe was not allowed in the past, maybe because they got fun of, in gym class, or weren't, welcome in sports because they were labeled as something, other than who they were. So I think by running with us, by being in the space that we share, getting the support from one another, I think they've been, gaining more confidence to be able to do other things beyond just running. Um, and then beyond that, I would say it's, the recognition that within the LGBTQ umbrella for our non-binary and trans athletes, that they have the ability to compete as themselves. And that with this new division of non-binary, not for non-binary runners, and that they can be welcomed into this into the running sport as they are. So, the work that we've done to make sure that they are seen, that they're included, and that they are being equitably represented as well has been, I think, one of the biggest things that Lez Run has done. It's revolutionized the world of running. It's opened up the world of running so that everybody can feel welcome and be respected and be seen for the skills that they bring into the sport, but also just their existence. Being able to get into the fold of what is one of the most powerful things in the world, and that's sports.
It's just incredible. And I just think that the work that you're doing is amazing, and just appreciate you opening up about it. And I think there's been several times in this conversation I honestly have gotten almost choked up myself. And it's just been a great conversation. Um, I wanted to give you the space to talk about something big that's happening next year. You mentioned that there's a Pride run that you were going to be co-race directing that's in the works right now. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, Pride Run has been around now for 7 years. This is the 8th year that we're going into. And Lez Run is a co-race director. We started this back in 2017, I want to say. And again, through the Philly Pride Run, we were actually the first road race to have a non-binary division with equal prize money, or equal prizes, I should say. And that's the influence that then carried on to other races from there and the advocacy work that we've done. But it's a community celebration. It benefits the William Way. We've been in close partnership with them to make sure that it keeps going year after year. It's a lot of hard work. We're getting ready to hopefully put something together for next year to make an announcement on a date and a theme. So keep an eye out for it. Some more information should be coming out hopefully soon.
By the way, I've been sitting here thinking about your last name, Tellez, and the Lez Run, and I kept thinking to myself, was that a opportunity for you to name the club Lez Run because your last name is Tellez?
A lot of people actually have asked me that. They're like, "Oh, I get it, Les for Tellez," and no.
Wow.
Even if I would have thought, my name should carry that much importance into something else, I don't know that I would have put it out there. Quite honestly, I have two last names, and I'm very proud of both. So I'm Tellez Lopez. But in the United States, unfortunately, as an immigrant, your name has a tendency to get shortened with every time your name is called. So my name has been condensed to CC just to but no, Les Run is definitely the lesbian portion of it.
Yeah, as soon as we started talking about that, which is probably like 25 minutes ago, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if that has anything to do with the name of the club as well."
Yeah, no.
We're a little slow on the uptake here at Run Dry Bike sometimes.
The name is the gift that keeps on giving.
But CC, thank you so much. We could talk all day to you about the things that you're doing, which is super important work about getting athletes recognized and honestly for them to feel seen in a world where we tend to turn a blind eye to a lot of different things. And so thank you for doing that. Before we let you go, we do have to have our food rapid fire questions, which, by the way, are neither rapid fire nor questions. They're more like statements in which we want to get your opinion.
Yeah.
So we need to rebrand the labeling of this end of the show. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oreos. Are you an old school Oreo fan, a double stuffed Oreo fan, the thins or the cakesters? Which of the packages in the Oreo aisle are you getting?
I love Oreos. I'm gonna go with the thin.
The thin.
The thin, yeah.
Episode 141, we finally have broken through and found the person who is buying the Oreo thins.
Yes, that's me. If I buy them, they will be the ones for me. I'm not a huge fan of the filling, to be honest with you. So when they did the thins and they had less of the filling, that's where they hit their market with me.
Gotcha. And so are you a person who would bite one of the thins and have like 2 bites out of it, or do you just pop it in your mouth like an aspirin?
Oh, I like to take my time with. So yeah. 2 to 3 bites, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Can you dunk a thin? Is a thin dunkable?
I don't no, I don't dunk them. I like to eat them as is or with a glass of milk, but separate. I don't. Yeah, I think they would just crumble.
Are you a fan of licorice?
No.
No, not at all. So
No.
red nor black, it doesn't matter. All right, next question. Peeps. Are Peeps a real candy? Yo, she's nodding yes, but she hasn't heard my description of them yet.
You say
Or
peeps, yes, so it's going to be yes. I was a fan of peeps.
Are you looking for them year round, or are you just treating them as a special treat around the Easter holidays?
You know, I used to appreciate the fact that they had me keeping in wait for seasons on end. You know, so I always look forward to them in the spring. And it was always like the yellow peeps that I enjoyed. But when I started seeing them in Valentine's Day and Halloween and now Christmas, it kind of lost a little bit of its luster. But I bump into them so often that now when they come around, it's like, you know, you're here.
Do you eat them stale?
No, it's got to be fresh. Yeah. Once you open the packet, you're making the commitment to either sharing it with someone or eating the whole sleeve. So,
all 16 of them at one time.
Yeah.
We were once told that you should eat Peeps stale, and my reaction was, I don't like Peeps, so I will say it this way. You want me to take something that's bad, make it worse, and somehow it's going to taste better? I don't think so.
Maybe you got to give him another chance, perhaps. Maybe you're not getting the right type of peep.
Maybe I have to go get the Christmas one, and maybe the Easter one just wasn't the right variety.
Not if it's stale, like the one you were sent.
Oh, that was terrible.
The shapes, maybe the color. I know it's all sugar; it doesn't come in flavors, but maybe it's a different thing, you know.
Which is a great segue to candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just sugar covered in, or is it just earwax covered in sugar? Pardon me.
No, that's a confectionery error.
I
I don't know who stumbled upon that and decided to, whoa, we made a mistake. Let's package it up and somebody will buy it.
Exactly. And they're still buying it.
Yeah, no. I can't. I've tried to like them. I've tried to like licorice. I've tried to like Twizzlers, and just some things were not meant to be in my palate.
What about the circus peanuts? Is that a real candy, or is that just the Amazon packaging spray painted orange?
You know, I've never really understood what they are. Is it supposed to be like a marshmallow? Or I don't even know. It's one of those candies that I'm just like, you know, you're here. I just, I don't know that I should consume you. Like, are you good for me or not? Am I going to like you? Am I just wasting my calories on you?
Brox was trying a little too hard when they came up with that product. That's for sure. Is red velvet cake a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
I think it's a chocolate cake dressed up to go.
Yes!
It's been a while since we've gotten that answer.
It has been a while. Like if you go to the grocery store, right, and you get like the slice of cake that they sell in the refrigerator section at the grocery store, it's like $12 for that slice, while the chocolate cake next to it is like $8. You might as well save the money and not pay for the red food dye. Now, if you go to a bakery, it's going to have something different to it altogether. Red velvet's going to have like the special cocoa and whatever else. But at a grocery store, just buy the regular chocolate cake.
Yeah, I think it's just the icing that's the difference. You know,
Yep.
if you take the icing out of it and you just, you know, eat the cake, it's the same. I don't see it.
Let's stick with cake. What is your favorite flavor of cake?
Vanilla.
Straight vanilla, not even like birthday cake.
I like cakes as plain as possible, not as much frosting on them. If they can just be kind of like a coffee cake without the crumbs, that's my sweet spot.
Ooh, I could go for a coffee cake right now. How about pie? Are you a fan of pie? And if so, what's your favorite flavor of pie?
Pies are very American. And again, I come from a doughy culture, but pies took me a while. And if I had to pick one, I'd probably say apple.
What does doughy culture mean? We're gonna need a description of this.
We don't we do like the cake again. Our cakes, like the cakes that I grew up with, didn't have like the icing or anything like that. They were just the cake.
Okay,
And maybe with like some lemon shavings or orange shavings. That's the cake that I grew up with.
gotcha. So when we talk dough, are we also talking bread?
Bread, a lot of like cheese, like I don't know if you know pan con queso or
Yes,
the cheesy breads. Yeah,
yes, very familiar.
yeah. So anything sweet, anything doughy, just that's where we're at with our diabetes. And so where
Let's
we
stick on the
eat
sugar train. Do you have a favorite flavor of ice cream?
vanilla.
Straight vanilla.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I'd love to hunt for like the weird flavors or the non-common flavors, I should say, like avocado. Um, I don't know. There's macadamia I just had when I was in Australia. The things that I wouldn't normally find here are the ones that I tend to go after. But at the end of the day, if like you just want to give me some ice cream, it's just vanilla, and I'm happy.
Very nice. What about, excuse me, chocolate chip cookie versus oatmeal raisin cookie? Which one are you preferring?
It depends on how the oatmeal cookie is made. I've always hated on them, but I don't know. Me and chocolate haven't been getting along too much lately. Gives me too much acid reflux, so I'm trying to break away from it. Um, so that would be a nice, healthy alternative. But I think it just depends on how many raisins are in the cookie.
Oh, you're not a raisin fan.
Not so much. I'll eat it if it's there, but it can't be like a lot of them all at once.
Yeah,
It
see, I'm the
changes.
opposite. I
Yeah.
love
More
raisins. Oh, yes. Put it in my carrot cake, put it in my cookies, put it in my oatmeal. Give me the whole box. I love raisins. I'm all
Yeah.
in. Pop
Of
Tarts,
course.
frosted or unfrosted?
No Pop Tarts. Can't stand Pop Tarts. I wish again I liked them, but yeah, no.
Where are you on nerd clusters then? Are you a fan of nerd clusters?
You know, I used to love nerds when I was growing up. Um, but the clusters, I think it ruins the candy for me.
Interesting, because
Yeah.
that's like the hot candy right now in the running world. People are fueling themselves with nerd clusters these days.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that. Yeah.
Uh, Our last question for you before we let you go: Are you brownies have come out of the oven? The tray is sitting on the counter. Are you the person who's going for the corner, the edge, or the middle ooey gooey?
The middle.
So you're gonna cut out the middle and
Yep.
just scoop that out straight up.
Yep.
Are you putting the scoop of vanilla ice cream that you so much love on top of it as well?
100%. That's my favorite dessert. Something that
Yes.
I crave after a long run or a marathon is a hot fudge brownie sundae.
Oh, what about
Yeah.
nuts? Any nuts in the brownie?
No nuts. Nope.
No nuts.
Just the center, no edges. I don't want to feel the crispiness. I want to just feel the soft, squishy, all of it. Yeah.
No caramel drizzle on there either.
No, the hot fudge probably is the most that I'll do on it. With some whipped cream. But yeah, that's the one.
Now that we've got everybody listening to the show running to go get the next tray of brownies out, I want to say thank you to CC for joining us. Go check her out and Lez Run on Instagram. Follow them. Let them know that you saw CC here on our show and listened to her on our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, CC. We look forward to continuing to celebrate Lez Run and the LGBT community on the Run Try Bike platform.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the platform as well. Really appreciate the highlights.
Have a good one, folks.
Thank you. Bye.